The morning started like any other Tuesday in 2157. Jake Morrison was drinking his coffee in the command center of Earth's defense station when the alarms began screaming. Red lights flashed across every screen, and the automated voice kept repeating the same message over and over: unknown vessels detected. Unknown vessels detected. Jake dropped his coffee mug and ran to the main display. What he saw made his blood freeze. Massive ships hung in space above Earth, bigger than anything humans had ever built. They were dark and smooth, like giant teardrops made of black metal. There were 12 of them, and they had appeared without any warning. How did they get past our sensors? Jake shouted to his team. "I don't know, sir," replied Lieutenant Sophie Adams from her communication station. "They just appeared. Our systems show nothing until they were already here." President Linda Hayes was in the middle of a meeting when her security chief burst through the door. "Madam President, we have a situation. Alien ships have appeared over Earth." Linda stood up so fast her chair fell backward. "Are you serious?" "Yes." "Ma'am, 12 large vessels. Our military is on high alert." Within minutes, every leader on Earth was connected by emergency communication links. General Lisa Park from the Asian Alliance spoke first. "These ships are enormous. Each one is at least 5 miles long. Our weapons are targeting them, but we're waiting for orders." Dr. Elena Rodriguez, Earth's top scientist who studied the possibility of alien life, was rushed to the main command center. She had dreamed of this moment her entire career, but now that it was happening, she felt scared instead of excited. "Have they tried to communicate?" she asked Jake when she arrived. "Not yet," he replied. "They're just sitting there." That changed. 30 minutes later, Sophie Adams suddenly straightened in her chair. "Sir, I'm receiving a transmission. It's coming from the lead ship." "Put it on the main screen," Jake ordered. The screen flickered, and then a face appeared. It was humanoid, but clearly alien. The being had pale blue skin, large dark eyes, and no hair. When it spoke, the words came out in perfect English. "Greetings, people of Earth. I am Commander Veltar of the Kethrin Collective. We come in peace and friendship." Jake exchanged glances with Elena. The alien's voice was calm and pleasant, almost musical. "We have been watching your species for many years," Commander Veltar continued. "Your people have grown and learned much. We believe it is time to make contact." President Hayes, watching from her office, activated her communication system. "This is President Linda Hayes of Earth. Why have you come here?" The alien's large eyes seemed to focus directly on her through the screen. "President Hayes, we come with an offer of protection. Your world sits in a dangerous region of space. There are threats all around you that your people cannot see or understand." Admiral Peter Grant, Earth's highest military commander, joined the conversation from his ship. "What kind of threats?" "There are species in this galaxy that consume entire worlds," Commander Veltar explained. "There are cosmic storms that can destroy all life on a planet in minutes. There are hunters who seek out developing civilizations like yours and turn them into slaves." Elena felt her heart racing. "How do you know about these threats?" "Because we are part of the Kethrin Collective, a federation of many species. We have survived these dangers for thousands of years. We help younger civilizations like yours by offering them our protection." The alien waved his hand, and the screen split to show images of beautiful worlds with tall cities and flying vehicles. "These are some of the planets we protect. Their people live in peace and happiness, safe from the horrors that lurk in dark." Space. Jake studied the images carefully. The cities looked amazing, far more advanced than anything on Earth. The people in the pictures looked healthy and content. "What would you want in return for this protection?" President Hayes asked. "Very little," Commander Veltar replied. "We would need to place defense stations around your solar system. We would share some of our technology to help your people. A life better lives. In return, we ask only for your cooperation and a small amount of rare metals that we need for our ships." General Park spoke up from her command center. "How do we know you're telling the truth about these threats?" The alien's expression became serious. Because 3 solar systems near yours have been destroyed in the past 50 years. The Zoric Empire consumed the 4th planet from here just 20 years ago. The people there refused our protection. Now their world is nothing but empty rock. Elena gasped. We never detected anything like that? Your technology is not advanced enough to see these things, Commander Veltar explained. But we can show you the remains if you wish. The world leaders talked among themselves while the alien waited patiently. Chancellor Roy Hamilton from Europe spoke first. This sounds like an amazing opportunity. Advanced technology, protection from threats we can't even see, and all they want is some cooperation and metals we can easily spare. But General Park wasn't convinced. How do we know this isn't some trick? Maybe they're the threat they want to protect us from. Look at their ships, Admiral Grant pointed out. If they wanted to hurt us, they could have done it already. Those vessels could probably destroy our entire planet. Dr. Rodriguez had been studying the alien's face during the conversation. Something about his expression seemed genuine. Commander Veltar, if we agree to this protection, what would change for our people? Your lives would become much better, the alien replied. We would share technology that would end hunger, cure diseases, and give your people longer, healthier lives. Your cities would become more beautiful. Your people would be safe. Jake looked at the massive ships on his display. The alien was right about one thing. If they wanted to attack Earth, humans couldn't stop them. But the offer sounded too good to be true. President Hayes made the decision that would change everything. We need time to discuss this among ourselves. Can you give us 24 hours? Of course, Commander Veltar said. We understand this is a big decision. We will wait. The screen went dark and suddenly every leader on Earth was talking at once. Some wanted to accept immediately. Others demanded more information. A few suggested trying to fight, but Admiral Grant quickly explained that would be suicide. Elena spent the next day reading every report about space anomalies and unexplained events that might support the aliens' claims. She found some strange readings from deep space telescopes and a few cases where space probes had simply vanished. It wasn't proof, but it was something. Jake couldn't sleep that night. He kept staring at the alien ships through his window. They hung in space like dark clouds, waiting for humanity's answer. The next morning, President Hayes called another emergency meeting with world leaders. After hours of debate, the vote was close, but the decision was made. Commander Veltar, President Hayes said when the alien appeared on screen again. Earth accepts your offer of protection. The alien's face showed what might have been a smile. You have made a wise choice, President Hayes. We will begin establishing the defense network immediately. Your people will be safe now. Within hours, smaller ships launched from the main vessels and began building strange structures around Earth's solar system. The Kethrans shared their first gifts of technology. Medical devices that could heal injuries in minutes. Energy systems that could power entire cities without pollution. Food production methods that could end hunger forever. As Jake watched the alien ships working in space, he felt hopeful for the first time in years. Maybe this was the beginning of a golden age for humanity. Maybe they would finally be safe from whatever dangers lurked in the darkness between the stars. He had no idea that the real danger was already here, wearing the mask of a protector and speaking words of friendship. The cage was being built around Earth, and humanity was helping to forge the bars. 5 years had passed since the Kethrans arrived, and Earth looked like a completely different world. Captain Alex Turner stood on the observation deck of his ship, the New Horizon, and marveled at the sight below. The planet glowed with soft blue light from the energy shields that protected every major city. Floating platforms carried people between towering buildings that seemed to touch the clouds. Alex remembered when his grandmother had died from cancer just 6 years ago. Now the Kethran medical technology could cure cancer in a single afternoon. Children who would have been born with disabilities were now perfectly healthy. People lived twice as long as they used to, and they looked young even in their hundreds. Captain Turner, his communications officer, called out. We're receiving clearance to return to Earth orbit. Thank you, Lieutenant Gray, Alex replied. He had just finished another routine patrol of the outer solar system. The Kethrans had assigned human ships to patrol the inner areas while their own vessels guarded the real perimeter. As the New Horizon approached Earth, Alex noticed something that had been bothering him for months. The Kethran defense stations formed a perfect ring around the solar system, but they all faced inward as much as they faced outward. It seemed strange for defensive equipment to be watching the thing it was supposed to protect. Dr. Maria Santos was having similar thoughts in her laboratory on Mars. She had been working with Kethran technology for 3 years, and she was one of the few humans allowed to study their advanced systems. The more she learned, the more questions she had. "Computer, show me the energy readings from the perimeter stations," she said to her lab's artificial intelligence. The data appeared on her screen, and Maria frowned. The energy patterns were all wrong. The stations weren't just creating a defensive barrier. They were creating a monitoring network that tracked every single ship, every communication signal, and every energy signature in the solar system. Maria picked up her secure communicator and called Colonel Ryan Davis. Ryan was the head of Earth's intelligence services, and one of the few people who still asked difficult questions about their alien protectors. "Ryan, I need to show you something," Maria said when he answered. "Can you come to my lab?" "Is it urgent?" Ryan asked. "I'm in the middle of reviewing some strange reports from our outer stations." "What kind of reports?" 3 of our deep space teams haven't reported back in the past month. The Kethrans say they encountered hostile forces and were destroyed, but we never received any distress signals. Maria felt her stomach drop. "Ryan, you need to get here right now." While Ryan was traveling to Mars, Captain Ben Clark was having his own disturbing experience on Deep Space Monitor Station 7. Ben had been listening to space communications for 15 years, and he knew what normal radio traffic sounded like. What he was hearing now was definitely not normal. The signals were coming from beyond the Kethran perimeter, and they were clearly attempts at communication. Some were mathematical sequences. Others contained what looked like star charts. A few even seemed to contain pictures, though Ben couldn't decode them properly with his equipment. "Station 7 to Kethran Command," Ben called on his official communication channel. "I'm detecting unusual signals from Sector 12. Requesting permission to investigate." The response came quickly from Commander Veltar himself. "Captain Clark, those signals are from hostile entities attempting to deceive you. You must ignore them completely for your own safety." "But sir, some of these signals look like they might be peaceful contact attempts from other species." "Captain Clark, I assure you that any communication from beyond our protective barrier is dangerous. These entities are skilled at making their hostile intentions look peaceful. You must trust our experience in these matters." Ben ended the communication, but he didn't stop listening to the signals. That night he managed to decode one of the picture transmissions. What he saw made him call an emergency meeting with his staff. The picture showed a being that looked almost human, but with slightly different facial features and skin that had a golden tint. The being was holding what appeared to be a star chart, and it was pointing at a section that clearly showed Earth's solar system. Written beneath the image in simple mathematical symbols was what could only be a warning: back on Earth, Senator Carol Webb was dealing with growing unrest among the human population. While most people were happy with the improvements to their lives, some were starting to ask uncomfortable questions. "Senator Webb," said Dr. Patricia Stone, a historian who had been studying the Kethran historical records, "I found some troubling inconsistencies in the data they've shared with us." "What kind of inconsistencies?" Carol asked. "They claim to have been protecting civilizations for thousands of years, but when I asked for historical records of these protections, they only provided very brief summaries. No detailed records, no cultural exchanges, no long-term studies. It's as if these civilizations just disappeared from history after accepting protection." Carol had been hearing similar complaints from other researchers. "What do you think it means?" "I think we need to be very careful about trusting everything we've been told." The breaking point came when Ryan Davis arrived at Maria's laboratory on Mars. She showed him the energy readings from the perimeter stations, and his face went pale. Maria, these aren't just defensive systems. This is a containment field. That's what I thought too, Maria replied, but it gets worse. Look at this. She showed him another set of data. I've been analyzing the technology they've given us. Every single device has built-in limitations. The medical equipment can cure diseases, but it can't be modified or improved. The energy systems are incredibly efficient, but they're locked to prevent us from understanding how they really work. Ryan studied the information carefully. They're keeping us dependent on them. It's worse than that, Maria said. Some of these devices have what I can only describe as kill switches. If the Kethrans wanted to, they could shut down our entire technological infrastructure in minutes. That same week, Alex Turner was preparing for another patrol mission when he received new orders that made no sense. He was being assigned to patrol the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, an area that had never shown any signs of threat. Why am I patrolling empty space? Alex asked his Kethran liaison, Sub-Commander Carmith. There have been unusual energy readings in that sector, the alien replied. We need human ships to investigate because your sensors are calibrated differently than ours. Alex found this explanation suspicious, but he followed orders. What he discovered in the asteroid belt changed everything he believed about the Kethrans, hidden behind a large asteroid. Alex found the wreckage of a human exploration ship. It was the Earth vessel Pioneer, which had been reported destroyed by hostile aliens 6 months ago. But the damage to the ship wasn't from some unknown weapon. Alex recognized the energy signatures. The Pioneer had been destroyed by Kethran weapons. Alex quietly collected as much evidence as he could. Then returned to Earth. He immediately contacted Senator Webb, Colonel Davis, and Dr. Santos within days. They had formed a secret group dedicated to uncovering the truth about their supposed protectors. The group called themselves the Truth Seekers, and they began investigating every suspicious incident from the past 5 years. What they found was terrifying. Human exploration teams weren't being destroyed by cosmic threats. They were being eliminated by the Kethrans whenever they got too far from Earth or discovered something they weren't supposed to see. Dr. Santos made another disturbing discovery. The rare metals that Earth was sending to the Kethrans weren't being used for ship maintenance as they claimed. The metals were being sent to other parts of the galaxy, suggesting that Earth was just one part of a much larger operation. Captain Clark finally managed to decode more of the alien signals from beyond the perimeter. The messages were from something called the Galactic Council, and they were trying to warn Earth that the Kethrans were not protectors but predators who specialized in enslaving species through false promises of safety. Senator Webb brought all this evidence to President Hayes, but the president was reluctant to act. Carol, even if this is true, what can we do? Their ships are still more powerful than anything we have. If we confront them and they decide to attack, they could destroy our entire civilization. But if we don't act, Carol replied, we're going to slowly lose our freedom until we're nothing but slaves who don't even realize we're in chains. The Truth Seekers continued their secret investigations, gathering more evidence and building a network of supporters throughout Earth's government and military. They knew that eventually they would have to make a choice between comfortable slavery and dangerous freedom. As Alex looked out at the Kethran ships patrolling Earth's skies, he wondered how many other civilizations had faced this same choice. How many had chosen safety over freedom and were now forgotten somewhere in the galaxy, their potential wasted, their dreams crushed under the weight of false protection. The golden cage was beautiful, but it was still a cage, and Alex Turner was determined to find a way to open the door. The Truth Seekers had grown from a small group of worried individuals into a network of hundreds of people across Earth and its colonies. Jake Morrison, who had once welcomed the Kethrans with open arms, now led secret meetings in hidden locations throughout the solar system. We have confirmation from 12 different sources, Jake announced to the gathered group in an abandoned mining facility on the moon. The Kethrans have been intercepting and destroying our exploration ships for years. They're not protecting us from threats. They are the threat. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, who had been part of the original First Contact team, looked older than her years. The stress of learning the truth about their situation had taken its toll on all of them. I've been analyzing the historical data they gave us about other protected worlds. I think I know what happened to those civilizations. She activated a holographic display showing star charts and population data. According to their own records, each protected world shows the same pattern. First contact, protection agreement, rapid technological advancement, then suddenly no more historical records. The civilizations just vanish from galactic history. Colonel Ryan Davis had been working with his intelligence network to gather more evidence. It's worse than we thought. I've managed to make contact with some of our people who work directly with Kethrin technology. They've discovered something terrible. Ryan brought up another display showing energy consumption data. The Kethrins aren't just limiting our technology. They're actively harvesting our innovations. Every time a human scientist makes a breakthrough, the Kethrins study it, copy it, and then modify our equipment to prevent us from advancing further. Senator Carol Webb had been trying to build political support for confronting the aliens, but she was meeting strong resistance. Most of the world leaders are too comfortable with the current situation. They see the benefits and don't want to risk losing them. President Hayes told me yesterday that even if everything we suspect is true, challenging the Kethrins would be suicide. Captain Alex Turner stood up from his seat in the back of the room. Then we need proof that can't be ignored. Something so clear that even the most cautious leader will have to act. What do you have in mind? Jake asked. We need to make direct contact with whoever is sending those warning signals from beyond the perimeter. If we can establish communication with the outside galaxy, we can learn the real truth about our situation. Dr. Maria Santos had been working on this exact problem for months. I think I can modify one of our communication arrays to punch through the Kethrin barriers, but it will be dangerous. If they detect what we're doing, they might decide that humanity has become too much trouble to control. Lieutenant Sophie Adams, who had been the first to receive the Kethrin communications years ago, volunteered for the most dangerous part of the mission. I can establish contact from Deep Space Monitor Station 7, Captain Clark has been tracking those signals for months. He knows exactly where they're coming from. The plan was risky but simple. Sophie would travel to the outer monitoring station under the pretense of routine maintenance. There, she would use Captain Clark's signal data and Maria's modified equipment to establish two-way communication with the entities beyond the Kethrin perimeter. 3 days later, Sophie was working frantically in the communications bay of Station 7 while Captain Clark kept watch for Kethrin patrols. The modified equipment hummed with energy as it tried to penetrate the alien barriers. I'm getting something, Sophie announced. The signal is weak, but it's definitely two-way communication. On her screen, symbols began appearing. They were mathematical at first, then gradually became more complex. After 2 hours of careful exchange, the symbols resolved into pictures and finally into words in perfect English. This is Captain Zara of the Helix Republic vessel Starwalker. We have been trying to contact Earth for over 4 years. Are you receiving this transmission? Sophie's heart raced as she typed her response. This is Lieutenant Sophie Adams of Earth. We are receiving you clearly. We need to know the truth about the Kethrins. The response came quickly. The Kethrins are not your protectors. They are predators who specialize in enslaving species through false promises of security. You are in immediate danger. Over the next several hours, Captain Zara transmitted information that confirmed humanity's worst fears. The Kethrins were part of a rogue faction that the rest of the galaxy considered criminals. Their method was always the same: identify a promising species, isolate them with stories of cosmic threats, then slowly drain their resources and innovations while keeping them trapped and dependent. How many worlds have they done this to? Sophie asked. 47 that we know of, Zara replied. Most of the civilizations are still alive, but they've been reduced to resource farms. Their people live comfortable lives, but they have no freedom, no real progress, and no future beyond serving Kethrin interests. The most shocking revelation came next. The Kethrans specifically target species that show high potential for innovation and military capability. They saw humanity's rapid technological advancement and aggressive expansion into space as a threat. Their goal is to neutralize that threat by controlling you rather than destroying you. Sophie transmitted all of this information back to the truth seekers on Earth while maintaining her connection with Captain Zara. The alien captain provided detailed evidence, including recordings of communications from other trapped worlds and technical specifications of Kethran control systems. There is hope, Zara explained. The Galactic Council has been preparing to intervene in your situation, but we wanted to wait until humanity discovered the truth independently. Species that liberate themselves are stronger and more resilient than those who are simply rescued. When the truth seekers received this information, they knew they had to act immediately. Jake Morrison called an emergency meeting with all the world leaders, including President Hayes, General Park, and Admiral Grant. "We have made contact with the outside galaxy," Jake announced, presenting the evidence they had gathered. "Everything the Kethrans told us about cosmic threats and hostile species was a lie. The galaxy is full of peaceful civilizations that want to welcome us as equals." President Hayes stared at the data in shock. "This can't be true. The Kethrans have been helping us for 5 years. They've cured our diseases, ended poverty, given us incredible technology." "Technology with built-in limitations and kill switches," Maria Santos replied. "Technology designed to make us dependent on them while preventing us from advancing on our own." Admiral Grant studied the technical specifications that Captain Zara had provided. "According to this data, the Kethran ships aren't as powerful as they led us to believe. Their main advantage has always been that their victims don't fight back." General Park was more direct. "If this is true, then we've been living as prisoners for 5 years without even knowing it." Dr. Rodriguez presented the historical analysis she had completed. "The pattern is clear in their own records. Every species they protect follows the same path. Rapid initial advancement, then stagnation, then gradual decline as their resources are drained and their population is controlled." Senator Webb had been preparing for this moment. "We have to confront them. We have to demand answers to the questions we should have asked 5 years ago." The meeting was interrupted by an urgent communication from Commander Veltar. The Kethran leader appeared on the main screen, his expression more serious than anyone had ever seen. "President Hayes, we have detected unauthorized communications from your outer monitoring stations. This is a serious violation of our protection protocols. We must speak immediately." President Hayes looked around the room at the faces of her advisors. Jake Morrison nodded encouragingly. Admiral Grant straightened his uniform. Senator Webb stepped forward. "Commander Veltar," President Hayes said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "We need to have an honest conversation about the nature of your protection." The alien's large eyes seemed to narrow slightly. "I do not understand what you mean." "We've learned some disturbing things about your operations," the president continued. "We've made contact with other species in the galaxy, and their reports about your activities don't match what you've told us." For the first time since their arrival, Commander Veltar looked genuinely surprised and concerned. "President Hayes, I hope you have not been influenced by hostile entities seeking to turn you against your protectors. The galaxy is full of species that would use deception to expose you to danger." Jake Morrison stepped forward. "Commander, we have a simple question that we should have asked years ago. If you are truly protecting us from what exactly? We want to see proof of these cosmic threats you've described." The alien was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice had changed. The friendly, musical tone was gone, replaced by something colder and more mechanical. "President Hayes, humanity has enjoyed 5 years of unprecedented prosperity and safety under our protection. I would hate to see that arrangement change due to misunderstandings caused by hostile influences." Senator Webb recognized the threat. "Immediately. That's not an answer to our question, Commander. Show us the threats you're protecting us from." The silence in the Presidential Command Center lasted only seconds after Commander Veltar's transmission ended, but it felt like hours. President Linda Hayes stared at the blank screen where the alien's threatening face had been just moments. "Before, he just threatened us," she said quietly. "After 5 years of pretending to be our friends, he just threatened us." Jake Morrison was already moving toward the communication console. "We need to get this information to every leader on Earth immediately. The Kethrons have dropped their mask, and everyone needs to know what we're really dealing with." Within minutes, emergency broadcasts were going out across the planet. Senator Carol Webb took charge of the public announcement while Admiral Grant began coordinating with military commanders worldwide. The message was simple but shocking. Humanity had been living under alien control for 5 years, and now they knew the truth. The Kethron response was swift and brutal. Less than an hour after the human broadcasts began, every major city on Earth lost power. The alien-provided energy systems that had powered human civilization for years suddenly went dark. Hospitals running on Kethron medical equipment stopped functioning. Transportation systems that relied on alien technology ground to a halt. Commander Veltar appeared on every screen that still had power, his friendly demeanor completely gone. "People of Earth, your leaders have made a serious mistake. They have chosen to listen to hostile forces that seek to destroy the peace and prosperity you have enjoyed under our protection." Dr. Maria Santos was in her laboratory on Mars when the power went out. Emergency backup systems kicked in, but she knew they wouldn't last long. She grabbed her portable computer and began downloading every piece of data she had collected about Kethron technology. If humanity was going to fight back, they would need to understand their enemy's weaknesses. "This is Commander Veltar speaking to all humans," the alien continued his broadcast. "Your leaders have been deceived by dangerous entities that wish to see your world destroyed. We are implementing emergency security protocols to protect you from these influences. Please remain calm and trust in our protection." Captain Alex Turner was aboard the New Horizon when the Kethron ships began moving. Instead of maintaining their protective positions around the solar system, they were turning inward, toward Earth itself. Their weapons systems, which had always been pointed outward toward supposed threats, were now targeting human positions. "All human vessels, this is Captain Turner," Alex broadcast on emergency frequencies. "The Kethrons are taking hostile positions. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill." But most human ships were powered by Kethron technology, and they were now dead in space. Alex's ship was one of the few that still used older human power systems, which made it one of the only vessels still capable of movement on Earth. General Lisa Park was dealing with chaos as military bases around the world reported system failures. "How much of our equipment is dependent on their technology?" she asked her staff. "About 60%, ma'am," replied Colonel Davis. "All of our newest ships, most of our communication systems, and nearly all of our defensive installations." The true scope of humanity's dependence on Kethron technology was becoming clear. For 5 years, they had been replacing their own systems with alien improvements. Now they realized that every improvement had been a chain, and every gift had been a trap. Lieutenant Sophie Adams was still at Deep Space Monitor Station 7 when Captain Zara's voice came through her modified communication system. "Earth vessels, this is the Galactic Council fleet. We are moving to assist you, but you must break through the Kethron containment barrier to reach us." "How?" Sophie asked desperately. "Most of our ships are powered down. You must use your older technology," Zara replied. "Your original human designs are primitive, but they are independent. The Kethrons cannot control what they did not build." This message was transmitted to every functioning human facility. Jake Morrison, now coordinating resistance efforts from a secret bunker beneath the lunar surface, began organizing every ship and facility that still used original human technology. "We're looking at maybe 20 ships total," he reported to the other leaders. "Everything else is dead in space." Dr. Elena Rodriguez had been studying the Kethron barrier systems for hours. "I think I understand how they work now," she announced during an emergency conference call. "The barriers aren't just keeping things out, They're designed to keep things in. But they have a weakness. What kind of weakness? Admiral Grant asked. They're designed to stop large ships and high-energy weapons. But they might not detect smaller vessels using low-power systems. If we could modify some of our older ships to run silent, we might be able to slip through. Captain Ben Clark volunteered for the most dangerous mission of his life. Using an old mining ship that predated Kethran technology, he would attempt to break through the barrier and make contact with the Galactic Council fleet. As Ben prepared for his mission, the situation on Earth was getting worse. Commander Veltar had declared martial law, and Kethran ground forces were being deployed to major cities. The aliens had hidden military equipment in their aid stations throughout human territory, and now they were using it to enforce their control. Citizens of Earth, Veltar announced, for your own safety, you must remain in your homes while we deal with the hostile forces that have infiltrated your communication systems. Anyone found outside designated safe zones will be detained for their own protection. But humans were not staying in their homes. Despite the power outages and the alien patrols, people were gathering in the streets. The truth about their situation had spread quickly, and millions of people were demanding answers from their supposed protectors. Dr. Santos had managed to reach Earth from Mars using an old cargo ship. Her analysis of Kethran technology was providing crucial intelligence to the Resistance. Their control systems have a central hub, she explained to Jake and the other leaders. If we can disrupt that hub, we might be able to restore power to our own equipment. Where is this hub? Jake asked. It's in the main Kethran command ship, the one that's been in orbit above North America for 5 years. Admiral Grant studied the tactical situation. That ship is heavily defended. Even if we could get our ships working again, attacking it would be suicide. Not if we attack it from the inside, Alex Turner suggested. He had been thinking about this problem for hours. Someone needs to get aboard that ship and sabotage it from within. Senator Webb was coordinating with civilian resistance groups around the world. People are starting to fight back, she reported. The Kethrans expected us to be passive and obedient, but humans don't surrender easily. Reports were coming in from everywhere. In Tokyo, protesters were surrounding a Kethran facility. In London, engineers were working to restore power using pre-alien technology. In New York, former military personnel were organizing guerrilla units to harass Kethran patrols. The biggest breakthrough came when Captain Clark successfully penetrated the barrier. His small mining ship, running on minimal power, slipped through a gap in the Kethran sensors and made contact with the Galactic Council fleet. This is Captain Ben Clark of Earth, he transmitted. We are under attack by the Kethrans and request immediate assistance. The response came from Captain Zara herself. Captain Clark, we have been waiting for this moment for years. The Galactic Council fleet is standing by to assist, but you must demonstrate that humanity is willing to fight for its own freedom. What do you need us to do? Ben asked. You must disable the Kethran control systems from within your solar system. Once their containment field is down, we can provide direct support. But the first blow must come from humanity itself. This message was transmitted back to Earth, where Jake Morrison was already organizing the most desperate plan in human history. Using every functional ship and every working piece of equipment, humanity would launch a coordinated attack on their alien captors. The plan was dangerous and probably hopeless, but it was their only chance. As Jake looked at the small fleet of aging human ships preparing for battle, he thought about how far they had fallen and how far they still had to climb. All ships, this is Morrison, he broadcast to the tiny human fleet. 5 years ago, we welcomed these aliens as protectors. Today, we're going to show them what we really think of their protection. The battle for Earth's freedom was about to begin, and humanity was finally ready to fight back against the golden cage that had held them for so long. The human fleet was pitifully small compared to the massive Kethran vessels that surrounded Earth, 23 ships. Most of them old cargo haulers and mining vessels, faced an enemy that had controlled the galaxy for centuries. But Jake Morrison had learned something important about humans during the past 5 years. They fought hardest when the odds were worst. "All ships maintain radio silence until we reach the target," Jake broadcast from his command ship, an old military vessel called the Freedom. "Remember, our job is to get close enough to the main command ship for the boarding team to get inside." Captain Alex Turner was leading that boarding team. His ship, the New Horizon, had been modified with every piece of human technology they could find. Dr. Maria Santos had worked for 3 days straight to create weapons and tools that could disable Kethrin systems from the inside on the surface of Earth. The real battle was already beginning. Without power to most cities, humans were fighting Kethrin ground forces with whatever they could find. Former soldiers like Colonel Ryan Davis were leading civilian groups in attacks on alien installations. The Kethrins made a big mistake. Ryan told his team as they prepared to assault a control station in Washington. "They thought controlling our technology would control us. They forgot that humans were dangerous long before we had advanced technology." The ground teams attacked. At exactly the same time, the space fleet moved toward the Kethrin command ship. The coordination was perfect, and the aliens were caught off guard. They had expected humans to surrender when their technology was shut down. Instead, humans were fighting with the primitive weapons and tactics that had made them dangerous in the first place. General Lisa Park was coordinating the ground assault from a bunker in Colorado. "All teams, remember your objectives. We're not trying to win a conventional war. We're creating chaos and confusion to give our space fleet a chance." The Kethrin response was swift but confused. Commander Veltar had not expected this level of resistance from a species that had been peaceful for 5 years. His forces were spread across the globe, trying to maintain control of key facilities while dealing with human attacks everywhere. "Subcommander Kermith," Veltar called to his deputy, "deploy additional ground forces to suppress these uprisings. The humans must not be allowed to interfere with our operations." But the uprisings were everywhere. In London, Dr. Patricia Stone was leading a team of historians and librarians in an attack on the alien data center. In Tokyo, engineers were working frantically to restore power to the city's defense systems. In New York, Senator Carol Webb was organizing civilian resistance while dodging alien patrols. High above Earth, Jake Morrison's fleet was approaching the massive Kethrin command ship. The alien vessel was 3 miles long and heavily armed, but most of its weapons were designed for space combat against other advanced ships. The small, fast human vessels were harder to target than the Kethrins expected. "They're firing on us," reported Captain Lisa Gray from her mining ship. "But their weapons are too big. They're having trouble hitting us." This was exactly what Jake had hoped for. The Kethrins had grown used to fighting enemies who used technology similar to their own. Human ships, running on primitive power systems and using unpredictable tactics, were something they had never faced before. Alex Turner brought the New Horizon close to the command ship's docking bay. "Maria, are you ready with those toys of yours?" Dr. Santos checked her equipment one last time. She had created weapons using human explosives and Kethrin power cells, devices that could overload alien systems from the inside. "Ready, Alex. Let's go show these aliens what humans do to people who try to cage us." The boarding team consisted of 12 people, including Alex, Maria, and Lieutenant Sophie Adams. They had trained for 3 days on what little they knew about Kethrin ship layouts. It wasn't much, but it would have to be enough. They cut through the docking bay doors using modified welding equipment and found themselves in a corridor that looked more like a laboratory than a military ship. Everything was clean and white, with no visible weapons or defenses. "This is too easy," Sophie whispered as they moved through the ship. "The Kethrins don't expect to be boarded," Alex replied. "They've been in control for so long that they've forgotten what real fighting looks like." They were right. The Kethrin crew they encountered were scientists and technicians, not soldiers. Most of them ran when they saw the armed humans. A few tried to activate security systems, but Maria's jamming devices prevented their equipment from working properly. The boarding team fought their way through the ship toward the central control room. They met more resistance as they got closer. to their target, but the Kethran defenders were not prepared for human close combat tactics. "They're good with technology," Alex observed after defeating a group of alien guards, "but they're terrible at actual fighting." Meanwhile, on Earth, the Resistance was achieving victories that surprised everyone. Captain Ben Clark had returned from his mission beyond the barrier with technical information from the Galactic Council. Human engineers were using this data to restore power to critical systems. "Power is coming back online in 15 cities, Colonel Davis reported to General Park. "We're also getting reports that some of our military equipment is functioning again." The tide was turning, but the real victory would come from Alex Turner's team aboard the Kethran command ship. They had reached the central control room, where Commander Veltar himself was directing the alien response to the human uprising. "Humans," the alien commander said when he saw them enter his control room, "you do not understand what you are doing. Without our protection, your species will be destroyed by the real threats in this galaxy." Alex Turner raised his weapon and pointed it at the alien leader. "We'll take our chances." "You are making a terrible mistake," Veltar continued. "We have protected dozens of species from extinction. We have given you technology and prosperity beyond your wildest dreams." Dr. Santos was already working on the control systems, using her devices to disable the Kethran technology that had kept humanity trapped. "Alex, I'm reading massive power fluctuations. The containment field around the solar system is starting to fail." "Your protection was a lie," Alex told the alien commander. "You weren't protecting us from threats. You were the threat." Veltar's expression changed from condescending to angry. "Your species is too aggressive, too unpredictable. You would have become a danger to the entire galaxy if we had not contained you. We did what was necessary for the greater good." "That wasn't your choice to make," Alex replied. "Sophie Adams had been monitoring communications from the rest of the fleet." "Alex, Jake is reporting that Kethran ships are pulling back from Earth. Something's happening out there." What was happening was the arrival of the Galactic Council fleet. As soon as the containment barrier failed, dozens of ships from various species entered the solar system. Captain Zara's voice came through on all human communication channels. "People of Earth, this is the Galactic Council Liberation Fleet. We are here to assist in your fight for freedom." The battle turned into a rout. Kethran ships, designed for controlling trapped civilizations, were no match for the combined forces of humanity and the Galactic Council. Most of the alien vessels fled the solar system, abandoning their operations on Earth. Commander Veltar was captured along with most of his crew. As he was being led away by human guards, he made one final attempt to justify his actions. "You will regret this day," he told Alex Turner. "Your species is too dangerous to be free. The galaxy will suffer because of what you have done." Alex looked at the defeated alien commander and smiled. "You're right about one thing. We are dangerous. We're dangerous to anyone who tries to enslave other people. We're dangerous to anyone who thinks they can control us. And we're dangerous to anyone who mistakes kindness for weakness." Senator Carol Webb, now representing Earth in discussions with the Galactic Council, delivered humanity's response to the galaxy. Her speech was broadcast to civilizations across known space. "For 5 years, the Kethrans promised to protect Earth from cosmic threats," she said. "They asked us what we feared in the darkness between the stars. Today we have an answer for them and for anyone else who might threaten free people. The only thing the universe needs protection from is those who would take away the freedom of others." 6 months later, human ships were patrolling regions of space that had been controlled by the Kethrans for generations. Other civilizations that had been trapped by the aliens were liberated and welcomed into the Galactic Council. Earth became known not as a protected world, but as a protector of worlds. Jake Morrison, now an admiral in the combined Earth Council fleet, often thought about the question that had changed everything. The Kethrans had promised to protect humanity from the dangers of space. But the real danger had been the protectors themselves. Humanity had learned the most important lesson in the galaxy. Freedom was more valuable than safety, and the universe didn't need protection from cosmic threats. The universe needed protection from those who would use fear to steal freedom from others. And humans, as it turned out, were very good at providing that kind of protection.